today's video, we'll be looking at Nvidia's first video chip on the Diamond Edge 3... Wait a minute, that's not a diamond card.
We review old technology from games to old PCs, and don't forget the toys. Get ancient electronics, we cover it all.
So for those of you that are fans of 90s vintage 3D accelerators, one of the more coveted cards is Nvidia's first offering based off the NV1 chip. Now, Nvidia didn't make these cards themselves. It was basically a Diamond Multimedia exclusive, and they branded it as the Diamond Edge 3D. It might be the Diamond 3D Edge, but I think it's the Diamond Edge 3D card. And like I said, it was basically an exclusive to Diamond Multimedia. Now, I do say basically because apparently there were other companies that did make video cards based off the Nvidia NV1, but they are exceptionally hard to come by. Now, this card right here is not mine, actually. It was given to me to check out, see if I could get it working by a friend who has this. He could not get this card working. He wasn't really sure what it was. He thought it was an NV1 card, but he just couldn't get it working. There's pretty much no information on the internet on this card. So in this video, I'm just going to take this card, we're going to look over it, see how it's different from the Diamond Edge 3D card, and then we'll see if I can get this thing running, which would be really cool because these cards are pretty sought after. They are collectibles, of course. From what I've read, they're not really great 3D acceleration cards, but again, very significant historically for vintage 3D, and it's an interesting card. Now, an interesting thing about the NV1 chip is I believe Sega actually helped Nvidia with it, but there was a number of Sega Saturn ports to the PC that directly supported the NV1, so that does kind of make it interesting. It also was a 2D/3D card, so it wasn't like the Voodoo where you had to have a dedicated 2D card and then the Voodoo did the 3D acceleration. It was a 2D 3D card, one of the early ones of that nature. So a very interesting card here. Now, what we have here, first of all, if we look, you probably might not be able to see it, but if you see right here, we get 1996 Core Dynamics core. This is the Dynagrafx 3D. Now, if you do a Google search, nothing comes up. You might find something about the company, but there is nothing on, well, except for a lone Vogons thread, which is actually, the owner of this card actually posted it on Vogons. It didn't really get many responses because I don't think anyone really knows what it is per se, but there's really no information on this card out there. And that's including drivers. Actually, maybe it's my own Google foo isn't that great, but I couldn't find any NV1 drivers except for the Diamond Edge 3D. Those are the only drivers I could find for the NV1 chip. Now, other than the branding, this card differs significantly from the Diamond card. Unfortunately, I don't have one of the Diamond cards here to compare, so maybe I'll put a picture up in the corner and we can talk about this really quick. So it is a PCI card, just like the original. The NV1 I don't think was ever put in the AGP format. So we'll start with the chips. Now, these are the two ST chips that make up the core of the NV1. Now, on the Diamond Edge cards, there'll be one chip here and then there'll be a chip right here. But these are the exact same chips. Now, there also seems to be two revisions of the Diamond card. One is that has the chips like this where they're ST branded and it has the numbers on them and stuff. There seems to be another revision that just says NV1 on the chips, but it's the exact same chips as far as I know. Maybe there's some slight revisions to them, but they seem to be the same chip. It's just the branding on the chips is different. But yes, these, if you look at the numbers, everything, these are the same chips as on the Diamond card. Other than that, of course, the layout's different. Now, these also have sound capabilities built in. Now, on the Diamond chip right here where this one is, there's a large chip, and I think it says like sound font or something like that. That chip is missing from this card, but right here there is a Yamaha branded chip, and then there's another chip right here which I suspect is a clone of a Yamaha sound chip. So there is sound on board, but obviously it's a little bit different from the Diamond card. You'll also notice on the Diamond card there are two connectors right about here, I believe. And those are actually for connecting Sega Saturn joypads or game pads. This seems to lack that completely. Memory looks about the same. I'm not sure how much this is. I think it's either 4 or 8. BIOS ROM's about in the same place. Of course, this one isn't branded Diamond. Other than that, just a basic layout is different. Now, if we look here, this is also different. So, on the Diamond card, you have, I believe, 3 audio jacks. You have your basic VGA jack, and then you have kind of this weird proprietary jack, like that you put a special adapter in, and it goes from that to the game port. That isn't on this. We only get one audio jack, and this is for audio out. And because you have 1 instead of 3, I guess they had more room on this bracket here, so they just directly included a standard joystick port, and then you just have your standard VGA out port. So, to clarify, I'm not saying that these chips are in the Sega Saturn. Actually, the Sega Saturn and its chipset predates the NV1 by a decent amount. But how these chips work is similar to the chips in the Sega Saturn. And it has something to do with how it renders like triangles or something that's above my head. But from my understanding is because these chips, the NV1 chip is similar to what's in the Saturn, it makes porting Sega Saturn games over to the PC when you have a card with these chips a lot easier. So that's about it. It doesn't seem to be as Sega Saturn like based as the Diamond card, again because it's lacking the Sega Saturn joystick ports. This probably, I'm guessing that Dynagrafx was kind of didn't really care about the Saturn part of things, and maybe they were hedging their bets and thinking maybe the NV1 API would become popular, and this was more based just towards like normal PC users that didn't really care about compatibility with like Sega Saturn ports or whatever. I don't know, but it is interesting. And again, when he loaned me this card, like we didn't even know if this is an actual like NV1 card or if this was just something that was kind of like similar and it used sort of some of the same chips, but it's not really an NV1 card. Didn't really know. So I guess right now I'm just gonna install this thing. I'm going to try to get it working. I don't really have drivers for the thing, but I'm just going to see what we can do. Hopefully I could get it working. It would be really cool if I could get back to him and be like, hey, yeah, it's a genuine NV1. This is how I got it working, but we'll have to see. So I am going to install that in our Dell Dimension L433C. This isn't exactly period correct with the card, but it's close. It's about 2 years off. In 90s computers, that's like a century. But it's kind of close. I think this was more like a 1999-ish. This card came out like 95, 96. It's what I have on the workbench. It only has PCI slots in it. And I know this machine is pretty reliable. So I've already reformatted the hard drive on here and installed a fresh Windows 98. Of course, from this coming out in like 95, 96, would have been more likely that you'd find this in a Windows 95 PC, but, not much difference between 95 and 98, really. Just easier to work with 98. So, like I said, this isn't period correct with the card, but it's pretty kind of close, so we're just going to go with it. So, I guess the next step now is just installing this card, seeing if I could see if the machine will even see it. Okay, so the card is installed. This is PCI only, so that kind of works out. I've removed all the other cards. I removed the Sound Blaster Live. I removed the Ethernet card just to simplify things and not be as least confusing as possible, and to potentially avoid any weird conflicts. So that should minimize it. Now this does have onboard integrated video with the 810 integrated video with the 810 chipset, so can't really do much about that. I think I might be able to disable that in BIOS or something like that, but that shouldn't really interfere. It hasn't with any of the other cards I've used on this machine, but yeah, I've just tried to simplify it the best I can. So now we'll just fire it up and see what we get. So upon installing the card and setting everything up with the generic VGA drivers, the card is detected as a generic VGA card. Of course, we are limited as the generic VGA drivers do limit us. But actually, Everest does detect the card as an Nvidia card. It detects the GPU on there and everything. And you can, if we look here at Everest, we can see some of the specs of the card. Now keep in mind that integrated, this PC does have integrated video, so that's what that integrated thing is. And I can't confirm, since we're just using VGA generic drivers here, I can't confirm that Everest is giving us all the correct information, but it is seeing the card and it is giving us some information. So that's something that that definitely is a plus. Now, I did find two versions of the Diamond Edge 3D drivers. One was a little bit newer, obviously, and then the other one was a little bit older. As I suspected, and as I was told prior, though, both of these drivers completely failed to install themselves. If you try to run the install program or the setup program, it would just complain that it was not detecting a Edge card, and it would fail to load the drivers. With some maneuvering and some effort, though, I was able to actually force the drivers and manually install them. Unfortunately, after getting the card installed and what it seemed like everything set up, I really couldn't get any games or benchmarks to run. I usually would get an error about there not being any direct 3D, and I don't know, maybe the card doesn't support it, or maybe me forcing the drivers and how I set things up, it was incomplete. I was getting sound. Obviously, as you can see here, Windows seemed to be working fine. But I just couldn't get anything to work, such as benchmarks. They would just fail. And even games like Quake, I tried running. I think I tried Quake 2. I can't remember exactly, but it failed to run too. I wasn't too bummed. What I really wanted to try out was the game specifically for this card. So I did find ISOs of Virtual Fighter and Panzer Dragoon, which specifically were for this card, and it's kind of API, and those actually did run just fine. So let's take a look. So after filming that last bit of footage and playing those games on the card, we can pretty much call this a wrap-up, right? Well, not quite. After I got the card working in a few games, I decided to go on YouTube and check out some other videos on this card and see if there's anything I missed or anything else I could check. And of course, one of the first videos I watched were, well, LGR had two videos on not this specific, but the Diamond branded NV1 card. And I realized something that I should have realized from the beginning. There are actually separate versions of Panzer Dragoon and Virtual Fighter, and there's kind of like a regular retail release that I guess is just software, and then there's a specific version that supports the NV1, and I don't have that specific version. I'm pretty sure the version, I'm almost positive the version I've been playing and tested on was the software version. I tried looking up, I tried finding the NV1 version on the internet, and I couldn't find it. Maybe my Google Foo skills are just really bad, but I could not find an ISO or anything of the NV1 version or a patch for, to patch the regular version so it would support the NV1. So I think I was just playing those games in software. I tried to kind of confirm this by actually running the games in a much older system. I tried running them in something period correct, so Pentium 133 system, and I even tried running them like with a Verge card, and they ran just as well as when I ran this card. Actually, they didn't run too bad, to be honest. But I saw no difference between running it on a Pentium 133 with a Verge and this card right here. They pretty much performed the same. It also makes sense that when I was playing on that overpowered Celeron, that the software mode worked better than the NV1 mode in like 16-bit color or whatever. That's just another little clue, I think. So I guess I wasn't really able to confirm and test this card, but that said, I still think this is genuine. I think this is a working NV1 card. I'm pretty confident if I got the NV1 version of like Virtual Fighter or Panzer Dragoon or any of those games, I'm pretty sure with the way I installed the drivers and got this working and identified by the computer, it would work in the accelerated mode. I'm pretty confident of that. So this is a pretty cool card. It is a genuine NV1. It is not a Diamond Edge version. I believe it has the full 4 megabytes of memory on there, which I think all of the Diamond cards usually come with 2, and you either have to add 2 more or you have to get a little memory daughter board to get to the full 4 megabytes. So that's pretty cool. It lacks the Sega Saturn like ports on it for like joysticks, but really I don't know if that really matters all that much. I actually like the interface here is a little better than the Diamond version. You don't have to have like that proprietary like doggle thing for the joystick port. It's just right there. So yeah, generally I think what I would do normally with this video is I would probably wait to release it until I actually like stalked eBay and maybe picked up those specific NV1 versions, or I found them. But as I think I should have mentioned earlier in the video, this actually isn't my card. And although the owner is a friend of mine and he's local and he probably doesn't mind me holding on to it for a while, I would rather get this back to him as soon as possible. So I guess I'll wrap it up with, if any of you guys are watching this and you have an ISO, or you can point me to an ISO of the NV1 version, let me know. Or even better, maybe even better, if you actually have the drivers for this weird Core Dynamics version of the NV1 card, also let me know. And if you could hook me up with those drivers, that would be great, because I scoured the internet. I couldn't find any kind of drivers for NV1 based cards except the Diamond version. So let me know if you have the drivers by chance, if you can hook me up with them. Like I said, my friend whose card this is, he's local. I'm sure if I got a hold of the drivers or an ISO of the accelerated versions, he might let me borrow it again if he still has it in the future, and maybe I can do a follow-up to this video and we can further look at it. So that's the video. Sorry I couldn't like 100% confirm it and show games, working in the accelerated mode. But it is what it is. I am actually glad I got the computer to actually like see this card, and it did function as, from what I've seen, an NV1 accelerator does. It played virtually nothing except the games like kind of tailored for it. Those Saturn ports, even though they were the software versions, it seemed to play them fine, even if it wasn't in accelerated mode. So, cool card. Again, let me know if you have any comments or anything like that, or if you have any information on this card. And maybe if I get some more resources here, I will do a follow-up in a part 2. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.